So here we are today with another Whisky, an Australian whiskey, but this time it's from Archie Rose in Sydney. I first tried this in one of those Melbourne International Airport departure lounges as I was waiting for my flight to San Francisco. I was, well, rather annoyed since it was free in the lounge and self-pourable, although they had cameras on you, so don't get too excited. I may have made a slightly more than two-finger pour, maybe. Anyway, and as I was sitting back and started sipping and enjoying it, my flight got called. Of course it did. So I had to chug it down, and it felt like such a waste to do that. So here we are, Advent calendar sample in hand. This time, I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm going to review it more properly. Like, rock on, baby. Let's go. Archie Rose, double malt, here I come. This is Whiskey. I'm John Chidgey. Always remember to drink responsibly in moderation and where and when appropriate. Feel free to like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube and visit engineer.network/whiskey without the E to learn how you can support the show. Thank you. The Archie Rose Distillery was the first independent distillery to open in Sydney for about 160 years. It's located by Kitchen by Mike and Koskela in the suburb of Rosebery, which is an odd spot. It's next to Mascot and the airport, but hey, the name Archie Rose is actually, there's two stories. There's an old-fashioned slang name for distilling back then when it was, well, illegal, and they called it Archie, and then Rose is short for the suburb, Rosebery. That's cool, I like that. Anyway, but there's also other twists on the story. Another one was that it is just solely based on the suburb. Doesn't really matter in the end. The distillery was formed by Mr. Will Edwards in 2014. He had escaped his brief career at Deloitte as a management consultant, and thank bloody God he got out of that. Deloitte, anyway. And produced its first products in 2015. But it wasn't until 2019, it was their first whiskey, a rye whiskey, was released, and a single malt came the following year in 2020. They originally used 3 steam-heated copper pot stills built by Australia's only still maker at that time, Mr. Peter Bailey. In 2020, they moved the distillery to Banksmeadow, which is really only 2 suburbs over, closer to Botany Bay, and they kept their original location as a bar, a cellar door, and an event space. Why not? The double malt, specifically, was introduced only a few years back in 2023, and according to the double malt page on their website, it has a mash bill that consists of amber malted barley from New South Wales, pale malted barley from the Latrobe Valley in Victoria, and malted rye from Canada. Interesting. It is technically, therefore, a blended malt whiskey. The double malt page also says it's matured in ex-Apera, ex-Sherry, ex-Bourbon, and Virgin American Oak casks. However, other articles suggest it's a blend of Archie Rose's rye malt whiskey and single malt whiskies. Their rye malt is made from greater than 51% malted rye, which is quite unusual since rye is normally used as an unmalted grain, not malted. Their malted rye is fully matured in Virgin American Oak casks, and their single malts are aged for nearly 6 years, but clearly there's more to the production of double malt that's being publicly discussed. It's been made, to quote Archie Rose, as the first Australian malt whiskey available locally for sub $85, in line with our mission of giving Australians the option to choose an authentic local whiskey instead of an imported whiskey. I like that. I'm definitely not going to argue with it. So, the double malt, or at least the full-size version of this puppy, costs $85 Australian for a 700ml bottle from Archie Rose or Dance. It has no age statement, it has a 40% ABV, and like all of Archie Rose's whiskies, it is not chill filtered, and there's no information I can find saying if it is or isn't coloured, so I'm going to have to err on the side of it's probably coloured. It's considered to be part of Archie Rose's core range. The tasting note from Archie Rose's website is as follows. On the nose, sticky apricot jam smeared in toasted rye bread with a second pass bringing notes of caramel, fragrant oak, and a hint of milk chocolate. Okay, that's a lot on the nose, we'll see about that. On the palate, it opens with pineapple, raisins, and ginger snaps, followed by a creamy, mouth-filling combination of young coconut flesh, caraway seeds, and raisins. I haven't had a caraway seed in a while. That'll be interesting if it's there. On the finish, a delightful finish of sticky apricots, tropical fruit, honey-roasted macadamia nuts, and a touch of pawpaw and baking spices. Well, again, haven't had pawpaw in a long time either. This is going to be a little interesting. Let's see what we can get on this puppy. All right. So that color, I would say it's a light coppery color or a dark amber, somewhere in there. I'm just watching for legs. They do say that they don't chill filter. And looking at that slow running leg, I'll just turn around to the front there. There are some thick legs that are just starting to run now, but they're picking up speed as they go to the bottom. So not super oily, but also shouldn't be too thin. But we'll see about that. All right, what do we get on the nose here? Ooh, hello. That rye bread comes right at my nose. Definitely getting oak on the nose as well, that's for sure, and a bit of caramel. I guess it's a little chocolatey, maybe a milk chocolate. I'm searching for the apricot and I'm coming up empty-handed here. Tell you what, it is a very interesting nose, there's no question about that. Alright, let's see what this tastes like. Alright, so the mouth feels really not very oily. It's, or buttery or creamy. It is a little thin, maybe a little bit watery. It's not what I thought I was going to get on in terms of mouthfeel, but that's okay. So it's not a heavy whiskey. It's not a complex whiskey. The mouthfeel on it's fine. It's not a problem. It's not what I thought I'd get, but that's okay. Let's have another go. I do get pineapple, but I'll tell you what, it's super faint. It's not really strong. It's not in your face. I'm struggling to find coconut in that, or caraway seeds. Don't get me wrong, it's nice. I mean, it's perfectly pleasant, and it's not harsh at all. I wouldn't go so far as to call it smooth, but it certainly isn't rough. And that finish is interesting. It's you definitely get a sort of a nutty, honey roasted, sort of nutty kind of a aftertaste. And some baking spices, definitely. I don't know about the pawpaw. I mean, it has been a long time since I've had pawpaw, but from what I remember pawpaw tasting like, I would not describe that as being this. Not at all. But you know what? Oh, actually, funnily enough, as I'm waiting longer on that finish, I can actually start to taste a bit apricot. That's crazy. It's like maybe all the other flavors need to dial back before that one comes to the forefront. It's kind of different. I don't mind it. They describe it as being a bit tropical. I think that's actually pretty reasonable. It kind of is. But you got to wait for that to the tail end of that finish. That's quite a decent length finish, especially for something worth $85. That's kind of impressive. All right, I'm gonna have one last go at the nose. I think the milk chocolate opens up a little bit more than once you've let it open a bit. I'm definitely getting the milk chocolate more now on the nose. I might even say there's a little teeny bit of passion fruit flavor in that. It's kind of crazy. All right, so where does this sit? In terms of cost, it's $85. It's just on the very lowest side of a 2, but I mean, a 2 is a 2. I drew the cutoff where I drew the cutoff. That is not to say that this is not. I mean, it's affordable for a good whiskey, right? And honestly, I found a few of these instances where I found this online. It was actually on sale. It was just under $80, so it can be a 1 if you get a good deal. But in terms of quality, I mean, it's perfectly pleasant, don't get me wrong, and I was still annoyed that I had to chug what was left. I couldn't have a chance to sip and enjoy it, because I am enjoying this, but it's just not making me smile. It's not making me giggle or anything like that. It's a nice drink. So it's a 2. It's a nice drink for some occasional variety, and given the price, hey, that's not bad. So at a 2, if you get it at normal retail price, it's yellow. And that's a few bottles in this category for something different from time to time. I think that's totally okay. Having said that, if you grab this for a good deal, well then in that case it makes it a green. And this is why I split them out, is because if you're going to look in terms of quality and some things come on special, at least that way you can unpack the rating and figure out the quality level and say, you know what, hey, that's a good deal, I'm going to get that. And the green, yellow, orange, red is just that guideline. It's like roughly how should I be looking for these or not. In any case, Archie Rose, you have not disappointed me. It is a perfectly pleasant drink, and for that amount of money, that is not bad at all from an Aussie. Aussie Whiskies for the win. And with that, cheers. See you next time. Pineapple. Not bad. Not bad at all.